Let's dive into the attribute error. Star object has no attribute cursor error in Python. This error pops up when you try to use the .cursor method on a string object, but strings don't have this method. It's a common mistake, especially when working with databases or text processing where you might be used to cursors. The .cursor method is associated with database connections, like those from libraries like SQLite3 or PsychoPG2, and allows you to interact with the database's results. Strings, on the other hand, are just sequences of characters. They don't have a concept of a cursor to iterate through data in the same way. Here's how to understand and fix this issue. 1. Understanding the error. The error message clearly states the problem. You're treating a string like a database cursor. Python strings are simply text. They lack methods meant for database interaction, including .cursor. This error typically appears because you've accidentally assigned a string to a variable you intend to use for a database cursor object. You might have fetched data from a database but mistakenly assigned the fetched data, which is usually a string, to the cursor variable instead of the actual cursor object. 2. Identifying the source. The most crucial step is to pinpoint exactly where the error is occurring in your code. Check the line number in the error message. Examine the variable you're calling .cursor on. Make sure this variable actually holds a database cursor object, not a string or another incompatible data type. Print the type of the variable using the type and sound function to confirm. For example, if you have myCursor.cursor, check print type myCursor. It should output something like class SQLite3.cursor, or a similar type depending on the database library. If it outputs class ister, then you found the problem. 3. Correcting the code. The solution involves ensuring you're working with the correct object. This typically means properly connecting to your database and correctly obtaining the cursor object. Ensure that your database connection and cursor initialization steps are executed without errors before attempting to use the cursor. Review how you fetch data from your database. Instead of assigning the result of a fetchOwn or fetchAlls method directly to the cursor variable, assign it to a separate variable for handling the actual data. The cursor remains the object used to execute database queries. Let's say you're using SQLite3. Python imports SQLite3con is SQLite3 connect mydatabase.db. Connect to the database cursor equals con.cursor. A get the cursor object cursor. Execute select from my table. Execute a query data equals cursor. Fetch all. Fetch all results. Data is a list of tuples. Now, data holds your database results. Cursor is still the cursor object con close. Close the database connection. 4. Debugging tips. Utilize print statements strategically to display variable contents and types before using them. This helps in tracking data flow and identifying if a string has inadvertently replaced your database cursor. Also use a debugger if your IDE supports it. It allows stepping through the code line by line and inspecting variable values. Proper error handling, using try except blocks, also helps manage exceptions gracefully and can provide more context for diagnosing the problem. In summary, the attribute error, Star object has no attribute cursor error in Python, points towards a mismatch between the type of variable you're using and the intended operation. By carefully checking your database interaction code, verifying variable types, and using debugging techniques, you can quickly identify and resolve this issue. Remember that the cursor method is for database objects, not